Hello, my favorite traders. Today is day 2 of the small account challenge. We are trading the micro ES E-mini futures contracts for our small account challenge, and the goal is to be green every day or to limit our red losses as much as possible. So the goal is to trade well and be profitable and have fun. So today, when I was doing my pre-market work, I was looking at the overnight session, and you can see here that overnight we pretty much just traded in a very tight range. We were hitting the 4,300 level, and then we went all the way down to about 42.83 in pre-market. But you can see here, it's just ES is just barcoding. So there's really nothing happening other than a really tight trading range overnight for the Globex levels. So my thought was, are we going to try to reach to the top of our April 18th low that we had, that was 43.60, or were we going to hit at least maybe 43.50 to get to the top of that channel? Or were we just going to have a trading range day to day where there were going to be pretty much like D plus trade setups, and if it was going to be really worth it to trade, because we had such a big move yesterday where we went from 42.49 all the way up to 43.04. So at that huge move, it would lead you to believe that, okay, maybe today is just going to be a little trading range day, or maybe we're going to hit a level and then reverse and go back up. So my thoughts were, I thought we would possibly be in a trading range day. I also wanted to stay long. I didn't want to really take any shorts because dips have been continuously bought up, right? So we know that the bulls are clearly in control. Whether we're having a bear rally or not, that remains to be seen. But the bulls are in control. So my thought was, I wanted to see what was going to happen, and I thought that maybe we'd come down, we'd test, this around this level here, this 42.80, and then maybe go back up. But let me jump right into my trades for the day, and we'll see how all of this unfolded. Right around here, I believe my exact short was 42.88. That was my entry point for my short. Now my stop, here's the problem with this trade, and I got stopped out of this trade at 42.90.75 and 42.91.25. So I got stopped out of this trade for a $50 loss. I was trading 4 contracts of the micro ES E-minis, and I lost $50 on that trade, which equates to $12.50 per contract. So I wanted to see what was going to happen. I thought we were going to break down. So my trade was, it was pretty much a quick scalp that I wanted to do, where I wanted to take it down to this 42.84 level. But here was the problem with the trade that I actually took, and I'll get into it when I cover the actual live recap. I didn't have my stop placed correctly, because in order for me to really account for the movement, my stop would have had to been up here at 42.95. And this is just not a good risk reward setup, because as you can see, as I was entering, I entered on basically a hammer candle. Then we had a doji. I should have cut this trade earlier when I saw this doji happening. Instead, I cut it here, because what happens is we form this little wedge where we go up to this 42.93.75 level, and then we come back down where the short is actually going to work. But you can see here my stop placement was here at VWAP, which was incorrect. Because of the way that the market is moving, I needed to do a wider stop. My stop should have been here. So that was a D plus setup right there. Then I decided, okay, I'm not going to take the market short. The move is happening. I'm not in it. I'm going to wait and see what else we have going on here. So my thought was, as I saw us bottoming out, we formed a double bottom right here. I saw, okay, the market looks like it's coming up with nice quick bars. These bars are moving pretty much, they're being printed every, let's say 30 seconds, which is really good. So with the 3000 volume chart, with any volume chart or tick chart, a bar is printed once that number increment has been hit. So if it takes 5 minutes for 3000 trades to be done, that bar will appear in 5 minutes. If it takes 5 seconds, that bar will appear in 5 seconds. That's how volume charts work. They are independent and different than time charts. So right here was where I got in at 42.8275. And then my initial target was going to be 42.97 because I did not want to wait to go all the way up to 4,300, right? However, we started out good. The trade was working. We hit a small area of consolidation. We're kind of like just a little bit kind of petering out a little bit here. So I hit my first take profit, and then we hit VWAP right here, 42.90, and then we start to reverse, right? So as we reverse, I start to think, okay, this might not be a good move to do. So instead of, because remember my entry point was 42.8275. So at this point I moved my stock to break even. I was worried about getting stopped out of the trade for nothing on the last two contracts. So I ended up closing the last two contracts at a small profit. So the first two contracts were closed at 42.88, and then these were closed at 42.8375. So just basically a 1 point profit is what I closed those out. Then I saw, okay, we still have good volume coming in. The bars are being printed pretty quickly. I'm going to get back in. So I got back in at 42.8475 here, and I held the trade for, I think I got back in this trade around, let's see. I got back in this trade at 10 o'clock, but then I scratched out of this trade because I didn't like the way that this bar was forming. So then I ended up getting back in, right? So I ended up getting back in a little bit higher up. I ended up getting back in at 42.8675. So that's where I got back in. I sat through this minor pullback here, and then my target now at this point was to see if we were actually going to hit close to 4,300. And then I hit my first take profit, and then I got a little bit frustrated with my trade here, and I basically exited at, let's see. Yeah, the first exit was 42.91 right here, 42.9150, and then the next exit was 42.9375. Then after all of this struggle, It's kind of like the story of my life. Had I held on 10 more minutes, we would have been at 4,300. And then look how the market just goes into this little creeper mode where there's tiny little pullbacks, they get bought up. We take another leg higher, tiny little pullbacks get bought up. We take another leg higher, and we ultimately go all the way to 43.27.25. So my question to you as a trader or an aspiring trader like I am is, how do you hold through the pullbacks? Um, you know, I am I am of the thought that I am going to change my approach on how I manage my trades, because the pullbacks are killing me basically. Like, I am not getting to my full profit potential because I'm exiting at the first sign of a pullback because I'm concerned about losing my winnings. Now, one of the rules for the challenge is not to let a green trade go red, right? So when I closed out the trade back here for a 1 point gain, even though it was up over 8 points, that was a good move to me. Like, that was solid because I could always get back in, right? However, I need to basically watch and really see how price and volume are acting to stay in my trades longer, right? Because it wasn't my intention to hold this trade until, what was it, 1310? So like 110, even though my initial purchase was back here at 10 o'clock. But had I done that, I would have had a banger of a winner, right? So, but that also requires, so it's a kind of like a double-edged sword, right? So that requires you to be able to sit through these pullbacks, right? To be uncomfortable, to go into a little bit of not so much not so much drawdown, but loss of open P&L, right? So up here you're at 43.15, then you're going to go back down to 43.06, which means that is a loss of 9 points. So how do you sit and be comfortable with your open P&L fluctuating in order to delay gratification and get a better risk to reward setup? So that's one of the things I'm going to work on. The trade setup, I'm going to say this trade setup was a B plus. I really like the setup. I am a little bit annoyed with myself that I got in the short back here, even though it was something I said I wasn't going to do. So that trade was a D. The first trade was a B plus. The second trade was a B plus entry. I really liked the entry on the trade. My trade management, I'm gonna give it a C minus, because I got out when there was really no sign of even pulling back. Like we had pulled back down here and I was still in the trade, but then I got out here. So I'm going to work on that. And we will take the journey together and see how it goes. So I just wanted to show you really quickly over here the chart layout setup that I have. And this is a 5-minute chart. And this is my homework after the market closes. I look at the 5-minute chart and I look at all of the setups and the trades I could have potentially taken, right? So here we're starting out, markets open, and now we're going into this kind of wedge right here. where I was waiting for price to break down in order to enter. So I did enter. However, I entered back here on this candle and we obviously went up. I had my stop set too tight because my stop, in order for it to be correct, it should have been set here. So let's take a look at that risk reward for that short position that I attempted to initiate, and that short was 42.88. So let's 42.88.50. All right. So my stop should have been 7.25 points, right? Which is a huge stop. And then the risk reward. So that's a 1.5 to 1 risk reward. I should not have taken that trade because I want all of my trades to be at least 2 to 1 risk reward, right? So you can see here that that was not a valid trade setup. That was a D plus trade setup. All right. So then let's go over to the next trade, which was the 42.8275 entry at 9:36. It was around right here. And this one I held to 42.88 and then it retraced. So let's do a long position there. Where is it? Right here. And it is 42.8275. Let's do 42. Let's do that. All right. So my stop was here. Okay. I had a pretty tight stop. It was only 4 points. And then my initial target for that trade was 42.90, right? So that was, let's see, this was my, this was my initial target. The 42, was it 42.90? No, my initial target was, hold on. No, my initial target was 42.97 for this. So let's say that 42.97. So with my stop placement here, I did not survive holding through the pullback that occurred around close to 10 o'clock. So this pullback here, let me just move this out of the way. This pullback here, I didn't, I closed out the trade, right? But had I stayed in the trade, that would have been a beautiful 3.5 to 1 risk reward trade. It was still a good risk reward trade. I ended up getting about 2 to 1 out of it, right? And then I jumped back in. So I got back in at, let's see, 10 o'clock. So 10 o'clock, I got back in the trade and I got in a little bit further up. So now my entry was 42.8675. So 42.8675. And my stop was here now. So my stop was still at that 42.8325. And then my target was, my final target was 4,300. So that was a 3.5 to 1 trade as well. That would have been a great trade to take. But then you can see here that I could have sat in this trade and it would have been a 6 to 1 trade had I just sat in it before this pullback right here. So this is a really good exercise. You know, you may think like it's a hindsight exercise, that what's the point? But there's so much value in understanding and learning how price sets up and how it moves, that it just helps you see more clearly. Like here's a downward channel where price is going to move up, and then it comes back down again. Right here's a down channel. You wouldn't want to short this because right now you are in such strong buy mode. This is a low probability trade. Like, you should not be taking that at all. But you could enter a new trade at any point right here and set a stop to see once, let's see. So I would say once this bar gets taken out, that would be a safe bet, right? So you'd have a fairly decent stop of 4.75. And then if you stayed in this trade until it started reversing and the buyers were exhausted, you would have had a beautiful 3.42 to 1 trade. And then, of course, you could have taken this short if you wanted to, but at this point, I would not touch this at all. But, you have two really solid, beautiful trades. And I think it's important to do this exercise after the market's closed so you can see where what moves you should make and how price moves, so you can be better prepared, because it's all about recognizing the patterns, recognizing your setups, and really being able to sit through the uncomfortableness that is a pullback, and to really like just get a feel for how price and volume moves and how you can take the best trades that will make you a profitable trader, a consistently profitable trader. So think about how you can sit through a pullback. I'm going to work on that tomorrow, and tomorrow will be on day 3 of our challenge. I hope you have a great one.